Good afternoon and welcome to After Bloom. I'm here with Kathy Humphrey today and we're going to learn about another Bloom member. Kathy, welcome.
Thank you, Russ.
And thank you for joining me today on After Bloom. Kathy, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was born and raised here in the Coachella Valley. My grandfather moved here in 1912 and was a pioneer date farmer. And then my father and later my mother joined the family business. And I was raised in Thermal, California on a date ranch. I was one of 5 children, the oldest, and went off to college at UC Santa Barbara. And during my college years, I worked in the Grand Tetons,
Wow.
which was really fun, and met friends there who had connections in Alaska. So after I graduated from UC Santa Barbara, I went to Alaska to join a friend and work in a cannery for the summer, and my friend told me that I could make $100 a day working there.
Wow.
And that sounded pretty good, and I was planning to go back to school and get my teaching credential. Well, I went to Alaska, and I did not make $100 a day, but I met a commercial fisherman and ended up getting married instead. So I didn't go back and get my credential. And I lived the next 19 years in Petersburg and raised a family. I have 2 daughters and worked a number of jobs there, and eventually, through sort of a fluke, worked for the Alaska court system. And I was hired as the clerk of court, knowing nothing about court business, and within 3 years the magistrate had left and I became the magistrate.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was really pretty much on-the-job training. I'm not an attorney, but I worked there for 10 years as the magistrate. And then I'd met Ron Humphrey, my husband, who had come to Petersburg, and we ended up getting married, and we moved down to Olympia, Washington, and with our children, and lived there for a number of years, where I worked for my main job. I had a number of very odd jobs, including being a moth trapper. But my main job, after I sort of got settled there, was to work for the Nisqually Indian tribe as a tribal courts improvement project, and then as a grant writer and self-governance coordinator. So that was a really interesting part of my life.
Wow.
And about that time, Ron retired from the Forest Service, and he had told me before we even got married that he wanted to retire to Montana. And so I said, well, sure, that sounds fine to me. So we did. We moved, scouted out all of the places that we thought we might want to live in Montana and chose Ennis, Montana. And we have lived there now for 15 years, and we just love it still.
Now, for folks that don't know, where is that around?
It's between Bozeman and Yellowstone Park. So it's real pretty. It's not real green. It's kind of high desert country with a lot of mountains, high 11,000-foot mountains all around us. And it's very famous for its fly fishing.
Wow. So you must have, as a desert girl, you must have felt home in that environment, having a little bit of the desert atmosphere.
I did, but you know, growing up down here, our idea of beauty was always a place that had abundant water and lots of green trees and all, and we don't have those. And so I kind of had to learn to love that environment too, but I do.
Yeah.
I do. It's very, very pretty. Yep.
You've had quite a fascinating journey.
Oh, I forgot to mention that after we moved to Ennis, I was, 50 years old and kind of looking around for some work, and Ron noticed an opening in the local newspaper for a city judge. And I really had not wanted to go back to being a judge again, but it was only 1 day a week. So he kind of said, Kathy, why don't you apply for this job? So I did, and ended up being the city judge for 12 years there.
Wow.
So I've just been retired for about 2 years now, and
wow.
enjoy it.
That is quite, from magistrate back to magistrate, and in between a moth catcher.
Yes.
And everything else in between. What a fascinating career journey you've had and life journey you have had.
Yeah.
What brought you to Bloom?
Well, as I said, I grew up in the Valley, and my family has always gone to the Presbyterian Church, which originally was in Coachella and then moved to Indio. And Ron and I actually became associate members there. But about 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, there was quite a controversy there that has sort of enveloped or has been part of the Presbyterian experience lately. And the issue was ordination of gays and lesbians as ministers or elders. And that church, for whatever reason, felt they needed to take a stand. And they decided, narrowly, but they decided that they would not ordain gays and lesbians. And Ron and I just could not, it didn't feel like home there anymore. We just felt very uncomfortable with that. We just didn't feel like we could worship God in that atmosphere.
Yeah, it's when it becomes a foreign place to you.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. And I think, and my family felt the same way, but my parents are pretty elderly, and you know, that's been their church that they have put together and been part of for 70 years now. So they're still there, but we had to do something different. And, well, Ron will tell this story too, but he had some friends who had been active, were retired Methodist ministers. And he spoke to them, and they started talking to him about the reconciling ministry and open and affirming. And so Ron kind of had those buzzwords in his mind, and was looking through the yellow pages and saw Bloom in the Desert, open and affirming, reconciling Methodist. And so we decided we'd give it a try, and this was just the week after this whole thing had happened in the Presbyterian Church. And so we came here, and it was Mardi Gras Sunday and Chinese New Year Sunday.
Wow.
So we got a very extravagant welcome.
Yeah.
It was wonderful. It was wonderful. Yeah. So that's what brought us to Bloom.
And now that you're at Bloom, what does Bloom inspire in you?
Wow. Bloom has just been wonderful. I'm one of those I'm not so emotional, but somehow I come across that way. I think it's two things. It's the message and the people that inspire us. The message, I love the two things that I hear the most, which is think for yourself and live for others. And it doesn't matter where you are on your journey of faith. You know, you're welcome here. And that really speaks to me. And the fact that the people here try to live those two mottos, we feel so comfortable. I feel like I could say what I really think instead of having to fit into some mold that oftentimes you do in other places. So I just find it to be a level of comfort and acceptance here that we have not found anyplace else. The love, the hugs, the sincere appreciation for each other, even though we're not, because of the diversity and in spite of the diversity.
Yeah, well, to me, the one thing that Bloom celebrates in a grand way is the fact that everybody is different, and that's the one thing that makes us all the same.
I think you're right. And it inspires me to be the things that I value, which are kindness and compassion. And the other thing that I didn't say anything about is people here are smart and talented and just fun to be around. And you know, that's a gift that we leave every Sunday just feeling energized by all of the people and the message and the worship that we experience here.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I look forward to Sundays. I look forward, the they're my favorite day of the week because I get to be around all these incredible people, and I know whoever shows up, it's going to be fantastic to be around them. Whether all the snowbirds here or whether it's the middle of summer, whoever's there, there's just such a diverse group of people all the time that it makes for a wonderful experience.
It's true. That's exactly right. Exactly. That's how we feel, and we just feel blessed to have found Bloom and all of the people who are now our friends here.
Well, it has been wonderful to hear about your journey today and to hear about what brought you to Bloom and how you got here. And I think, you know, God works in mysterious ways, and you hear things and then you're looking for something else, and the things you heard before are in your head now, and then you see it, and it's just a part of the journey, part of the path that God leads us on. And if we pay attention, He takes us to those great, wonderful places and gives us great, wonderful journeys, even in the difficult times.
That's right. That's right.
So it's been a pleasure to share some of this journey with you and to continue your journey as it moves forward with you and be a part of that. And next week we'll be talking to Ron Humphrey, her husband, and hear his side of the story.
That's right. We'll see if he tells you something different.
Thank you for joining us on After Bloom here this afternoon. And please join us this Sunday for Sunday service. And if you can't be with us in person, please be with us in spirit. And remember, when you volunteer, the life you change may be your very own. Thank you, and have a good afternoon.
Okay.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Russ.
Kathy.